Graham Bradley won an impressive haul of top-class races in his riding days, from Hennessy's at Newbury to champion hurdles and Gold Cups at Cheltenham. Bradley had effortless style and finesse in the saddle. But out of it, controversy found him on more than one occasion. Now, 2 decades on from retiring and having been warned off from a sport he so loves, I reflect on his riding career with him and find out what the future may hold on the road to redemption. Brad, it's great to see you, and I've just a lot of research for this interview, reading your book, The Wayward Lad, which you wrote when you retired, 20 years ago now. I was just wondering, with that passage of time, how do you look back on your riding career now?
It is. I mean, I wanted to be a jockey ever since I was a young lad. That's all I ever wanted to do. From a council house family in Yorkshire, so to ride winners, you know, Cheltenham Gold Cup winners, King George, Hennessy winners, just absolutely unbelievable. And I didn't know what I wanted to do when I retired. But a very good friend of mine called David Metcalf told me to try and buy him a horse that would run well in the Ebor and then be a good hurdler afterwards. And I bought him Vicious Circle from Luca Kamani, and he won the Ebor. It was just absolutely unbelievable. The adrenaline when I was in the stands, it just made me so excited. And that just made me think what I was going to do afterwards. I was going to be a bloodstock agent, so I started buying and selling horses here, there and everywhere.
How has that gone in recent years, or has that been difficult?
It went really well to start with. I was riding a few horses in Germany for Andreas Vola, Christian van der Reck. I rode a few winners for them. Their horses over there were very cheap. It was absolutely unbelievable. And I bought 6 horses for Steve McManaman and Robbie Fowler, and they all won lots and lots of races. My business was going absolutely magnificent, really, really good. Then unfortunately, I gave evidence for a friend of mine called Barry Wright in Southampton Crown Court about a drug dealing thing. And I admitted to giving Brian Wright a load of winners for 10 years. He was a punter of mine. Unfortunately, I got warned off, and it totally ruined my life. I lost all my business, I lost all my credit details, everything. The money that I could borrow, it just all went belly up. So things have been very difficult since.
Yeah, we sympathise. And you look back on those times now, and I guess there's a little bit of a pang of regret there as well, Graham. Even though at the time, knowing you as I do, you're very much a people person. I don't think I've met anybody, in fact, who's met you who doesn't like you. Did you feel that by getting involved with someone like Brian was perhaps ill-advised, or was that something that you never thought about at the time?
I didn't think about it at the time. I got introduced to him at Sandown one day by Barry Wright, my best friend, who he lived with me here for 3 years before I got married.
Fellow jockey.
Yeah, absolute superstar. And he was, I mean, I think the first time I met Brian Wright was in a nightclub in Tramps. No, the second time I met him. And Walter Swinburne was sat there on the table. I think the third time I met him, Steve Cawthon was there. He knew anybody and everybody. And I got on with him so well, it was amazing. I didn't just like him, I loved him. He was like my second father. I asked him what he did for a living, and he said, oh, this and that. I never asked him again, so I didn't know. He knew anybody and everybody in racing from years and years and years ago. And I just kept giving him little bits of information about horses, you know, this will win, that might not win, boom. You know, I was always a very good judge on that. And I ended up punting to him for 10 years, which is, you know, totally criminal. Every jockey that I ever rode with had lots of punters as well, you see, so I just thought it wasn't a bad thing to do. But now I know it was a bad thing to do, and jockeys aren't allowed to do it. And it was a stupid thing I did, really, but you know, for the 10 years he used to come to Ireland, we used to go see his mother, he used to come to the racing, we used to go here, there and everywhere together. But I do regret it now, unfortunately.
I look back on it now, Brad, it's like a who's who of top trainers that you worked for over the years. I mean, you started off with Arthur Stevenson. That bit in the book sounds horrendous. Sounds like going back to the last century. And then the Dickinsons, you know, Tony and Monica, Michael. You moved on to David Ellsworth, Paul Nicholls. I think you were Paul's first retained jockey.
Yeah.
Charlie Brooks.
Rode Paul Nicholls' his first Grade 1 winner, I think, at Kempton. Yeah, when I left school in 1977, 17, I had 2 years with Arthur Stevenson. It was actually really good, actually.
It doesn't sound it.
I can remember there being the first day, and I turned up on that morning with jumper boots on, gloves, a hat, stick, everything like that. Everybody in the yard had just jeans and wellies. It was just unbelievable, and I never wore them again. But it was amazing that he never used to watch the horses exercise during the day, so he never used to watch me ride, so he didn't really know how good he was. Yeah. And I was there about 2 years. I started as an amateur, then a conditional, and I never rode a winner for him. And the Dickinsons moved from Gisborne to Harewood, which was near Wetherby. My father knew Tony Dickinson, and I just thought to myself, it might be an idea. Can you ask him if I can have a job? You know, when I was at Arthur Stevenson, there was 18 or 19 jockeys there or something. And my dad got me a job with the Dickinsons, and I went to Arthur Stevenson and gave him a week's notice. And Arthur Stevenson said to me, he said, ho, ho, ho. He says, there wasn't a lot for you here, but there's not going to be even less for you there, he said. So, I mean, thankfully he was wrong about that, because I got the job. But when I went to the Dickinsons, there was 4 stable jockeys, Tommy Carmody, Robert Earnshaw, Kevin White, Chris Pimlott, and there was about 6 or 7 conditionals as well. So I was about 10th or 11th in line there. Yeah. But thankfully they seen me ride out every day. They seen that I was a good horseman. I had good hands, and I think within 4 months I had my first ride, and within 6 months I rode my first winner. And things went on from there, and it was just absolutely incredible.
We've often referred to Michael Dickenson, even to himself, as the mad genius, and he'd always say, you got that half right. So what was he like to work for?
Absolute brilliant person, workaholic, great trainer. His father, Tony, used to do a lot of the buying and the selling, which is very important. You've got to have good horses there, haven't you? His mother, Monica, did a lot of feeding and looking after the horses. Michael did all the training, and he used to go everywhere, write everything down, make notes from footballers, athletes, cricketers, everything about what to do. And all he wanted to do, and all he ever did, was just look after the horses all the time, you know, the sort of train them. And he was a very, very clever guy. I'd only been there about 2 weeks or something, and the all-weather gallop hadn't got fences. The fence was there, sorry, but the gates weren't there. And this horse called Red Mills ducked out, and I fell onto this thing and bruised all my ribs. And I went running into the yard, and Michael had caught him, and only the grass was growing, and he went absolutely mad with it. But that's the sort of personality he was. He apologised to me about an hour afterwards, but it was great working for him. He had a unbelievable staff, and he had some great horses. He only had 60 stables, and I think he trained 120 odd winners in one season, I think. Yeah, amazing. He was an incredible person to work for.
Talk about the famous 5, talk about Bregawn. I mean, what a fantastic racehorse. And you were the man that came home in front in the famous 5.
Yes, Bregawn was only small. He was a bit quirky. He was well built. When you used to ride him out at home, he used to stop, and you couldn't move him to save your life. Nothing could move him. You just had to pat him, play with his ears, and do this. And I've never known a horse ever, in all the years that I've ridden, do something like that. But he was a very, very good horse. He'd come from Ireland, and the different lads in the yard had different rides, and because nobody had ridden Bregawn, and I think it was 1981 when I was second to Silverbuck. They put Robert Earnshaw on Silverbuck, and they put me on Bregawn. So I'd already ridden him, you see. Then they kept me on him the following season, and I won the Hennessy. And then he was favourite for the Cheltenham Gold Cup. And we thought he would win. He was favourite. He'd never, ever made the running before, ever, in his life, Bregawn. And we walked the course beforehand with Michael and a few other jockeys, and not one of the instructions was for me to make the running. I was 22 years old. But I think that's a very important thing that jockeys have to do. You know, when trainers leg you up and put you on there, job's finished. The jockeys have got to do it anyway. So we set off, and for me, they weren't going quick enough. You know, Cheltenham's a little bit uphill and downhill, and it's a tight track, and they weren't going quick enough. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to win unless I go on a little bit. 22 years old, I don't know how many million people were watching it, but I had just supreme confidence. You know, the bigger the race that I rode in, the more I enjoyed it. And I just decided to make the running. And I think it was a great ride. Michael Dickenson thanked me afterwards. 1983, a long time ago, but it's a great memory for my life.
Wayward Lad was a legend, Brad. What was he like as a horse?
Wayward Lad was more of a flat breeding horse, I think. And he was a brilliant ride at home. I think Monica Dickenson used to ride him out a lot. He was an absolute superstar. He just didn't quite get the trip at Cheltenham, 3¼ miles up that hill. But I think he was probably the best horse I ever rode, you know. I was lucky that I rode. Badsworth Boy won the Castleford Chase, Sabon de Loire, he was an absolute superstar. Wayward Lad, Bregon, Desert Orchid I got one ride on as well.
Yeah.
But I think Wayward Lad was the best horse I ever rode, and that's why I named my named my book after it. I mean, and my reputation wasn't great, but Wayward Lad was the best horse I ever rode, so that's why we named it after that, I think.
One of the chapters in your book, Brad, is called The Big Sleep, which refers to that infamous time when you didn't show up to ride Alderbrook for a schooling session. And it all went pear-shaped for a while. Tell us that story, that's incredible.
Well, Alderbrook had won the Champion Earl the year before, and Norman Williamson had broke his arm or his leg or something like that. Kim Bailey rang me up and asked me if I would ride it. It was odds on favours. I was very excited. He thought I would suit the horse, right? So I said, yeah, I'd love to do it, Kim. He said, would you come and school it next Sunday at Lambourne at 10 o'clock? And I said, yeah, absolutely no problem. So 10 o'clock, leaving here at 20 to 10 would have been not a bother. But the night before, I got invited to Dean Gallagher's birthday party near Newbury. And I ended up getting back about 4 o'clock in the morning, absolutely upside down drunk, which is crazy. But I thought, you know, be able to get up in the morning, not a bother. The wife, Amanda, Bob, she left to go to work somewhere modelling at 7 in the morning, and we set the alarm next to me, next to the bed, and we had a power cut, electricity power cut, and my alarm didn't go off. And I woke up at 10 o'clock or something, and I'd missed it, and I rang Kim Bailey, said, oh, don't worry, Jim McCarthy, I think, had schooled him or something. The owner was there, press was there.
So it was a big morning.
Oh, absolutely unbelievable. And can you imagine what I'd done? It was a stupid, silly mistake. And the owner didn't want me. He booked Richard Dunwoody. Can't blame him at all. So I was disappointed, but what can you do? I thought I was just unlucky.
Well, you must have been devastated, Brad, but more than disappointed. It must have been.
I was, but
Yeah.
I mean, I knew there was, you know, it was my mistake. It was a stupid thing to do. What could I do? I knew I was unlucky that the village had a power cut and the alarm didn't go off. So, you know, it wasn't totally my fault, but it was totally my fault. Anyway, I'd won on Collier
And
Bay.
you had to go to Dean Gallagher's birthday party.
Yes, of course I did, absolutely. He was a
Your big mate.
he was a big mate.
Yeah.
I got him the ride and couldn't be better to win the Hennessy for Charlie Brooks. But anyway, I'd won on Collier Bay before at Sandown. Jamie Osborne had chose to ride Jim Old's other horse, really good horse.
Moleboard.
Moleboard, well remembered. And then Jamie had the choice of Collier Bay and Mysilv in the Champion Earl, right? I'd rode Mysilv the year before, finished 4th on it for Charlie Edgerton. And the ground was good to firm. And he knew Collier Bay. He'd won the Irish Champion Hurdle on him at Leopardstown, heavy ground. He knew it was too quick for he shouldn't even be running. So he chose Mysilv. And we played, this is on the Monday, you got declared for the horse, the entry at 10 o'clock on the Monday. And then all the jockeys were on it. We played in a charity golf day at, where was it? Can't remember. Anyway, charity golf day. At 5 to 10, we started playing golf. A load of Irish lads came over to play in it, and it started raining. And it never stopped raining from then till the next morning. The ground went from good to firm to soft, and I'd got on Collier Bay. I was only 3rd choice. And I gave him a peach of a ride, took it up fairly early. I think I nearly made the running most of the way. Alderbrook, Richard Dunwoody came to challenge me turning for home, but I won 3 or 4 lengths. Again, when I passed the post, I did another Leeds United sign, but it was just an incredible ride and great result for me.
Oh, you couldn't believe it. You couldn't make it up, could you?
Nope, just mind-boggling.
And this all happened in the space of what, like 10 days or something ridiculous?
Yeah, you know, I'd lost the ride on Alderbrook. Jamie Osborne could have rode Collier Bay and he chose Mysilv. Yeah. So again, I got unlucky, then I got lucky. So that's life for you sometimes, isn't it?
And Brad, your career had incredible high spots. We know that. You won the Gold Cup and the Champion Hurdle, the Hennessy, etc., etc. Lots of big prizes over the years. And but there were these punctuations with, you know, interference, if you like, from the Jockey Club security department, the integrity side of the sport, which in the end became quite regular. I mean, did that, overall, looking back on it now, that must have been incredibly wearing for you, given that most of the time they were in the wrong and you were in the right?
Well, it's a very hard question to answer, really. You know, from a very early age, council house family, all I wanted to be was a jockey, and I was everybody seemed to like me. So when I went on and I tried to help Barry Wright when I gave evidence at the Southampton Crown Court to say that all he did was similar to me, just gave Brian Wright tips and winners and things like that and got a few quid. And he actually got found not guilty. But that, it totally ruined my life, unfortunately. Because the Jockey Club were there. And they said they were going to do a hearing, a Jockey Club hearing, and John Frankham organised a meeting with them to chat about it beforehand. And I said to them, to save you hundreds of £1,000s, save me hundreds of £1,000s, just give me a couple of years warned off, please. And they said, no, 10 years we're going to warn you off. And I just thought to myself, I can't take the 10 years, that's just madness. So I thought I would take them to the High Court. So we did go to the High Court, right? The day before, a lady was supposed to be the judge, and they changed it to a guy. Anyway, I lost that. I don't know, I had no chance. But then I got leave to appeal to the High Court, what do you call that, the High Court Appeal?
Court of Appeal.
Yeah, the Lord of the Rolls is the second highest law lord in the land. He does everything. We gave our evidence in the morning, and then at about 1 o'clock or something like that, he banged his hammer down. He says, listen, we don't even want to hear the Jockey Club's case. They're sporting professionals. We can't go against them. We can't go against the High Judge. I was nearly ill. I'd done £320,000 in legal fees and all these things. And the Lord of the Rolls didn't even want to know the Jockey Club, so it made the Jockey Club higher than the second highest law lord in the land, which was it was just an absolute disaster, and it ruined my life. I'd lost all my business figures, all the money that I borrowed. It was just impossible.
Did you find who your true friends were during that time, or? Unfortunately
not.
Right.
The Jockey Club told some of my closest friends that they couldn't have anything to do with me.
Even socially? That must have been,
we're not supposed to talk about horses or something.
Right.
Unfortunately, I couldn't go to Philip Hyde's wedding or something. I couldn't go to A.P. McCoy's wedding. And some of the people, they got told. They told Carl Llewellyn, Ruby Wallace, Mick Fitzgerald. They told a few of my very close friends, just stay away from me. You're not allowed to talk to him about horses. Which, it totally changed my life, which was not easy.
Can't have been easy for the family either, when your wife Bob and young daughter Georgia May growing up as well.
Yeah, all I ever knew was horses. Horses. I didn't know anything else. And I was getting older. So it was a bit of a disaster. But again, you see, I've got to blame myself for what I did. But I just, I'm really looking forward to, to getting back into it. I've applied again to have an official position in racing. I've tried to be Richard Rowe's assistant trainer. I've tried to be David Ell's assistant trainer. I've tried to be, I applied to be a trainer myself 6 or 7 years ago.
You've done all the modules and things, haven't you?
Yep, passed all the modules.
Yeah.
It cost me £3,500, £4,000 or something.
So you are qualified to be an assistant trainer to start off with, moving on to
yes,
a full trainer.
Fingers crossed. But unfortunately, because I did get warned off for the 8 years, then the 5 years in the High Court, I've been told that the press don't trust me, the public don't trust me, reputation's not good, which I don't think is 100% true, unfortunately. You do things in the past, you live and learn, and you move on, which has happened to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm just very,
you've done the crime and you've served your time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just very keen to get back into racing in an official position. I go anywhere and everywhere now. I went to Cheltenham, Aintree, Punchestown, York. I go here, there and everywhere I meet people stop. They buy me drinks, they take selfie pictures, we have a laugh with them. So I think it's just a little bit unfair that I'm not allowed to be, to be back in an official position in racing, because a lot of people like me.
But we've got to talk about Sonny Bay, because you said in your book that the ride you gave him in the National when he was second under that massive weight was one of the best you'd ever given a horse on board Charlie Brooks's wonderful grey.
I think it was one of the greatest rides I ever gave a horse as well, actually. And I just went down the inside. There's always 40 runners in the Grand National, and I just gave him a peach of a ride down the in, and he was a brilliant, brilliant jumper. And Earth Summit, joined Carl Llewellyn. He was £7 claimer at Jim Olds when I rode for Jim Olds with Carl Llewellyn. He's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant rider. And I joined him after jumping the third last, going to the second last upside, and I had a look round and we were 20 lengths clear of the rest. And I said to Carl, whoa, Carl, hombre I used to call him.
Yeah.
I said, we're a distance clear. I said, just hang on, don't move on him yet, because I knew I had 12 stone and he had 10 stone 8 or something like that. He'd won the Scottish National. Carl, brilliant jockey, intelligent, he just totally ignored me and went on because he knew. But for me, it was an unbelievable great ride. He was a superstar of a horse, Sonny Bay. Loved that. I think the be-all and end-all with horses of the ground that they run, I think it's number one.
Yeah. And
Sonny Bay loved heavy ground.
Brad, do you see, do you look at the British racing scene now in particular as a particularly healthy scene? Do you enjoy watching the racing? Do you think we've got a bright future?
I absolutely love it. I watch it every day whenever I can, and I go to all the big meetings as well. Royal Ascot's something else. It's just unfortunate that the prize money isn't not as big as it is in Ireland and America and places like that.
France.
If you even mention it, people tell you you're not even allowed to mention it these days. But whether they could do anything about that, I do not know. Because it costs you 25 grand at least a year minimum to keep a horse in training.
Yeah.
And for them to win 25,000 in prize money, they have to win about 4 races. It's very hard. But the breeding, the racing, it's just absolutely mind-boggling. I love it. I'm desperate to get back into it.
It is an inexact science, though, isn't it, to be fair? It's high risk.
Yes.
But it's a great challenge, though. You like the challenge?
Yeah, just the whole carry on, the whole sport, the buying, the selling, the riding, the training, the owning, anything being involved. See, we've got a pub 200 yards away from my house and I never go into it. I never drink at home. But when I go to the races and I meet people and they offer to buy me drinks, I have such a fun with them. And it's all to do with horses, owners, trainers. It's a great life. Miss it.